Imagine you're staring at a video you just took of yourself. It's an ordinary moment.
Right. Completely normal.
Yeah, you're smiling, maybe you're showing off the background. But then you look a little closer at the trees behind you, and you realize someone has been standing there, just watching you the entire time.
Oh, that is chilling.
Right. Your brain told you that you were completely safe, just enjoying a peaceful afternoon. But looking at that screen, you realize your instincts were actually screaming for a reason. And the camera is, well, it's the only thing proving you aren't crazy.
It's terrifying. I mean, mostly because it completely shatters our baseline assumption about the world. We assume our conscious mind is firmly in the driver's seat, accurately interpreting everything around us.
Exactly.
But when that physical evidence is just staring you in the face, you're forced to admit that your conscious mind was essentially asleep at the wheel. And meanwhile, your primal subconscious was desperately trying to hit the brakes.
Which is exactly what we're unpacking today. Welcome to today's deep dive, where we are extracting the psychology behind that exact disconnect.
It's a fascinating topic.
It really is. For you listening, we're looking at a transcript from the YouTube channel Mr. Nightmare, specifically a collection called 3 True Scary Stories with Video Footage. But we aren't just summarizing spooky encounters today.
No, we're really dissecting the fragile illusion of safety.
Yes. The mission here is to understand how our intuition detects danger way before our rationalizing mind is willing to accept it. And, how modern technology, like our cell phones, has accidentally become this objective reality checker for our own broken internal alarms.
Because that biological alarm system is, honestly, it's wildly complex. To put it in perspective for you, think of our conscious brain like a slow, buffering dial-up connection.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Right. It's trying to download the context of a situation, figure out the social norms, make a polite decision. But meanwhile, our primal subconscious is like a high-speed fiber optic line.
So it's already there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It has already downloaded the threat, processed the danger, and it's flooding our body with adrenaline before we even know why we feel scared.
That dial-up versus fiber optic thing, it perfectly explains this first scenario from the source material. We've got this hiker, right? She recently moved to a quiet rural area.
A great setting for a retreat.
Yeah, totally. And she discovers this private little path leading from her property into a local nature reserve. So every Saturday, she makes it her routine. She explores, finds these little creeks and waterfalls, and she takes these short video diaries on her phone just to document the scenery.
Which seems completely harmless.
Right, but on one particular day, she's walking toward this small, swampy clearing, and she notes feeling completely on edge, like every single sound makes her tense up.
Her fiber optic line was firing.
Exactly. She describes having this overwhelming bad feeling, but she cannot articulate why.
And, her conscious mind couldn't articulate it, but her amygdala, which is the fear center of the brain, was already sounding the alarm.
It's just wild how that works.
It is. This feeling of dread in an isolated environment, it's actually an evolutionary feature. Her subconscious was registering subtle environmental cues that her conscious dial-up brain was just flat out ignoring. Because, it just wanted to enjoy a nice hike.
So it's filtering out the bad stuff.
Right. She was likely picking up on, say, the crunch of leaves that didn't match the rhythm of an animal. Or maybe a shadow moving contrary to the wind. Or even a heavy scent that just didn't belong in a swamp.
Man, that's creepy. So she reaches this clearing, feels this brief, false moment of peace, and records a quick video diary on her phone. Then she heads toward the public trails.
Oh, you say so she's heading back to civilization.
Right. She makes it to the public restrooms, and the moment she walks out, she gets intercepted. There is a man in a black hoodie, a purple hat, and sunglasses.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he walks right up, says, "Hey there," with complete familiarity. And immediately, her internal alarms start going completely haywire.
What she's experiencing right there is a textbook predator test.
A predator test.
Yeah, he is evaluating her boundaries. Predators often initiate contact with forced familiarity just to see if the target will comply with social norms. If you politely engage with a stranger who's making you uncomfortable, you're basically signaling that you prioritize the social contract over your own safety.
That is so true. And she does try to laugh it off awkwardly at first and walk away, but he actually follows her.
Of course he does.
First, he claims they're taking the same trail. Then, when she politely says she's actually waiting for someone, he pivots his tactic completely. He walks away, comes back a moment later, and says his car is broken down.
Oh, this is escalating quickly.
Yeah, he claims his hands are, quote, too big to pop the sticking hood of his red Chevy Cruze. And he specifically asks if she can use her small fingers to help him.
Oh, the psychological manipulation there is incredibly layered.
How so?
Well, first, he's manufacturing a scenario where she feels socially obligated to extend a favor. Humans have this deeply ingrained tendency to be helpful, especially when someone asks for a minor accommodation.
Right, you want to be nice.
Exactly. But the phrasing, asking for her small fingers because his hands are too big, I mean, that is a grooming tactic.
Ugh, that's disgusting.
It really is. He is actively highlighting her physical vulnerability and his physical dominance, framing it as this harmless quirk. And he's doing all of this while trying to isolate her near his vehicle, which would be the secondary crime scene.
Well, thankfully, her fiber optic subconscious finally breaks through to her conscious mind. She calls him out on his shifting narrative. She points out that he literally just said he was taking the trail, and now he's talking about his car breaking down.
Good for her.
Yeah. And then this couple happens to walk by, and instead of staying quiet, our hiker marches right up to the woman and greets her like they are old best friends.
That is exceptional situational awareness. She completely abandoned the social contract of being polite to the creepy guy.
She really did.
Because often victims of abduction report that they knew something was wrong, but they just didn't want to seem rude or hysterical or make a scene.
Right.
This hiker weaponized a social interaction with total strangers to build an immediate, impenetrable barrier between herself and the predator. She used the presence of witnesses as a literal shield.
And it worked. The guy lingers, realizes she's not bluffing about staying with these people, and finally takes off in his red car.
Thank goodness.
So the couple walks her to the edge of the woods. She runs home, pours a glass of wine, and decides to look at that quick video diary she took back at the swamp clearing.
Oh, no.
She plays the video, and there, just lingering in the background of the tree line right over her shoulder while she's smiling at the camera, is the man in the purple hat.
I mean, he had been tracking her deep in the woods long before that bathroom encounter.
It's like looking at a beautiful vacation photo you took of the ocean, only to zoom in and see a shark fin right behind where you were swimming.
That's a perfect analogy. That intense, inexplicable dread she felt at the swamp was entirely accurate. Her brain had detected a predator. The video just acted as the objective proof of what her primal instincts already knew. It validated the biological alarm system that kept her alive.
But you know, that biological alarm system we rely on in the wild, it completely short-circuits when the threat breaches our ultimate safe space, the home.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if the woods are where we biologically expect to be vulnerable, the home is where we demand absolute security. When that boundary is violated, it causes such massive psychological dissonance that our brains will literally invent a different reality just to avoid dealing with it.
It's true. The human mind will bend over backwards to misclassify a threat if acknowledging the truth means admitting that we're entirely defenseless in our own sanctuary.
And you can really see how desperately the brain wants to avoid that reality in the next story. So we have this couple, Ron and Tina, who buy a new house, and they actually get a discount because the real estate agent disclosed that someone had previously died in the home.
Okay, setting the stage for a haunting.
Exactly. Soon after moving in, things start getting weird. They're waking up to strange noises at night. Furniture is being moved around while they sleep. Ron's favorite Miami Dolphins coffee mug completely vanishes from the kitchen counter.
A very specific thing to go missing.
Right. Then, one night, Ron hears a massive crash in the basement. He goes down to check, sees something move in the dark corner, and just sprints back upstairs.
And let me guess their explanation for all of this physical evidence.
They become entirely convinced the house is haunted by the ghost of the person who died there.
Unbelievable.
They literally pack up and sleep at a hotel for 2 nights because they are so terrified of this ghost. Which raises this bizarre question. I mean, why on earth is it more comforting for Ron and Tina to believe they are being haunted by the restless undead than to just admit someone might be living in their basement?
I know it sounds crazy, but preferring a paranormal explanation is actually a highly effective psychological defense mechanism.
Wait, really?
Well, think about how ghosts operate in our cultural consciousness.
Right.
They follow what we can basically call movie logic.
Movie logic. Right.
Yeah, if you have a ghost, there are established rules. You can call a priest, you can burn sage, or, worst case scenario, you can just move out and the ghost stays bound to the property. A ghost doesn't physically follow you to the grocery store. It's a contained spiritual anomaly.
while a living, breathing human being secretly cohabitating with you is just pure, uncontained chaos.
Exactly that. A squatter destroys the very concept of physical safety. It means your locks are useless, your privacy is a lie, and the threat has complete physical agency to harm you while you sleep. The human psyche would often rather deal with the supernatural than the horrific reality of a predator sleeping under the floorboards.
That makes so much sense when you put it like that.
Yeah.
Well, the narrator of this story, who is a friend of theirs and a massive skeptic, he thinks this ghost theory is absolutely ridiculous.
I would too, honestly.
Right. He offers to go to the house in the middle of the day and do a full sweep of the basement to prove to Ron and Tina that there are no demons. So he walks through the house and notices a very distinct foul odor.
Oh.
He specifically notes it's not some demonic sulfur smell, but heavy, stale body odor. He gets down to the basement, which is packed wall-to-wall with storage boxes, yells at the ghosts to come out, and hears nothing.
Notice how the narrator is operating purely on logic here, completely dismissing the glaring environmental clues.
The body odor.
Yes, heavy body odor is the ultimate red flag of a biological presence. But his conscious brain is so locked into proving his friends wrong about the supernatural that he fails to recognize the very real physical danger he just walked right into.
So, feeling confident, he decides to play a joke.
Yeah.
He pulls out his phone, puts it in selfie mode, and starts recording a video to mock Ron. He's like, "Look, there are no ghosts down here, just your useless storage."
This is where the digital lens comes in.
Yep. As he pans the camera over his shoulder, he catches a glimpse of the screen. He pulls the phone back, and sitting in the corner, just wedged between the boxes, is a sickly, disheveled old man with what he describes as plastic-looking eyes.
Oh my God. Once again, the digital lens breaks through the psychological barrier.
Right through it.
The narrator was so blinded by his own skepticism, so convinced of his own safety, that he couldn't see the danger until the camera literally framed it for him. The phone acted as an impartial witness to a reality he was refusing to perceive.
He panics, runs up the stairs, and just holds the basement door shut with all his body weight. He screams for Ron to call the cops. The old man on the other side starts wailing, then trying to force the door open, repeatedly screaming, "No, no, no," over and over.
That is deeply unsettling.
When the police sirens finally arrive, the narrator lets go of the door. The old man busts out, screams in the narrator's face so hard it knocks him backward, and then just sprints out the back door into the neighborhood.
You know, that specific reaction from the intruder, the wailing and the frantic chanting of no, 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 that is the reaction of cornered prey losing its territory.
Right, because it was his territory now.
Exactly. And when the police searched the basement, they found the desk. There was a pillow, a blanket, and Ron's missing Miami Dolphins mug tucked in the corner where the body odor was strongest. This wasn't just a temporary hiding spot. This man was living alongside them, silently observing their daily lives.
And the craziest part, the cops never caught him.
Unbelievable.
The story ends by noting that Tina, who grew up in safe neighborhoods and never used to lock her doors, now checks her locks 5 times every single night before going to bed.
Which is a profound, lingering trauma response.
Yeah.
Tina realized that leaving a door unlocked doesn't invite the spiritual world in, it invites the physical world. Her repeated checking of the locks is this obsessive attempt to regain the physical boundary that was so thoroughly, secretly violated.
Right. So we've explored the wild outdoors, where we sort of anticipate danger, and the hidden depths of the home, where we demand safety. But there's this liminal space between the two where our brains play the most dangerous tricks on us.
The front yard.
The front yard.
It's the transition zone. The front yard is fascinating because it's technically your property, but it's publicly visible. It's the space where we most aggressively apply social frameworks to explain away bizarre or threatening behavior.
Because we don't want to feel exposed.
Right, we don't want to feel vulnerable in our own neighborhoods.
The setup in this final account is so relatable. The narrator is making some extra cash house-sitting and dog-sitting for his wealthy boss.
Sounds like a pretty good gig.
It is. The dog, Max, is chill, the house is massive, and the narrator is a bit of a night owl. So he brings his Nintendo Switch to play the Paper Mario remake into the early hours of the morning. It's super cozy.
A false sense of security.
Exactly. On the second night, around 10 p.m., he takes the dog for a walk in the front yard, and thinks he sees someone standing in the dark near the side of the house. But he just brushes it off as shadows playing tricks.
Which is a completely normal initial reaction. The conscious brain doesn't have enough data to confirm a threat yet, so it defaults to the least threatening explanation just to maintain that cozy status quo.
But the data keeps piling up. At 1 a.m., the narrator goes out to his car for a phone charger. He looks a few houses down and sees a person dressed in all black just standing motionless on the sidewalk.
At 1 a.m.
Yeah. And here is where the mental gymnastics really kick in. The narrator tells himself, well, I'm outside at 1 a.m. Maybe this is just a neighbor looking at the stars.
This is a perfect example of how we contextualize anomalies to protect our worldview.
Looking at the stars in all black.
I know. Standing absolutely still in the pitch black at 1 a.m. in dark clothing is objectively suspicious behavior. But the narrator projects his own innocent intentions. He's just getting a charger onto the stranger to normalize the situation. He literally forces the anomaly into a harmless box.
It's wild. So he goes back inside to play Paper Mario. 2 hours later, around 3 a.m., he hears a noise, like a heavy branch scraping the side of the house. He walks over, looks out the living room window, and literally jumps backward because a person is actively running away from the glass.
Oh, that is terrifying.
The narrator considers calling the police but decides not to. He writes in his account, I realize there isn't a way for me to put this that doesn't make me look like an incompetent idiot for not calling someone.
Wow.
So what does this all mean? Why do we actively try to talk ourselves out of being in danger even when someone is peering into our windows at 3 a.m.?
What you're looking at there is a severe case of normalcy bias.
Normalcy bias.
Right. It's a cognitive glitch where the brain refuses to accept a disastrous or highly dangerous situation because it hasn't happened to you before. The brain literally lacks the established neural pathway for I am the target of a home invasion.
So it just rejects the idea entirely?
Yes. So instead of reacting to the threat, the brain attempts to force the escalating danger into a normal framework. It's just a stargazing neighbor. It's just a prank. It takes immense psychological effort to override normalcy bias and accept that you are in peril.
And the boss actually reinforces this bias. The narrator calls his boss the next morning to report the weirdness, and the boss completely dismisses it.
Typical.
He says there are teenagers in the neighborhood behind them who cut through the yard all the time, and they've even peeked in the windows before as a joke. He claims they are totally harmless.
Which basically transfers the boss's normalcy bias directly onto the narrator.
Right.
The boss, who holds authority, has definitively categorized the threat as annoying local teens. That effectively gives the narrator social permission to lower his guard and ignore his fiber optic subconscious.
Which almost costs him everything. That night, the narrator takes the dog out at 11 p.m. He sees the figure again. As he approaches the house, the person sprints and hides behind the boss's garage.
The escalation is real.
The narrator puts the dog inside, grabs a flashlight, and actually goes back out to search the yard, assuming he's just going to shoo away some pesky teenagers.
Oh, no.
He finds nothing. Hours later, he looks out the front window. The figure is standing across the street, directly under a streetlight, staring dead at the house, completely motionless.
The predator has escalated from covert observation to overt intimidation. By standing in the light, they are communicating that they are no longer hiding. They want to be seen.
Well, our narrator makes a terrifyingly foolish decision here. He goes out the front door, stands on the porch, and yells across the yard at the guy. He asks if he needs help.
Again, with the social contract.
Right. Nothing. The guy is a statue. So the narrator says, I'm going to record you, pulls out his phone and starts filming, mostly just so his boss will finally believe him. The absolute second the camera lens is pointed at him, the figure under the streetlight drops all pretense and charges.
Oh my God.
He breaks into a full aggressive sprint directly across the lawn at the narrator.
The camera acts as a catalyst. The lurker realizes his anonymity is being permanently stripped away by the digital recording. The objective witness has arrived, forcing the predator to abandon the intimidation game and act immediately.
It's insane. The narrator barely makes it inside, slams the heavy front door, and throws the deadbolt. He's hyperventilating in the dining room. 10 agonizing minutes go by. Total silence.
Just waiting.
Then the doorbell rings, the narrator freezes, the doorbell rings again, the handle jiggles, and then through the heavy wood of the door, a calm, perfectly rational, almost cheerful voice says, "Have a good night."
That detail is the most unsettling part of the entire encounter.
It makes my skin crawl.
Because it represents calculated psychological warfare. The aggressive, full sprint charge across the lawn was designed to elicit sheer animal terror. But the calm, conversational voice at the door is designed to display absolute dominance.
Like he's just toying with him.
Exactly. The intruder is demonstrating that they aren't acting out of a blind, frantic rage. They are methodical, they are completely in control of their emotions, and they are enjoying the hunt. That juxtaposition of extreme violence and calm rationality is what makes the psychology of stalking so deeply terrifying.
The cops finally arrive, but the guy is long gone into the night. The boss buys security cameras the next day, but the narrator is left with the agonizing question of why. Was it just wrong place, wrong time? The video he took on his phone is blurry, chaotic, and terrifying, but it proves to his boss, the police, and himself that the monster in the dark was entirely real.
Normalcy bias almost kept him standing on that porch until it was too late.
It really did. When you look at all three of these accounts, the through line isn't just about creepy encounters. It's that in every single one of these moments, the human brain actively tried to edit the reality of the situation to make it more comfortable.
We constantly do it.
The hiker tried to be polite to a predator. The homeowners blamed a ghost to avoid the reality of a squatter. The dog sitter blamed teenagers to avoid the reality of a stalker.
And in every instance, the victims required a digital lens, a video diary, a selfie taken as a joke, a phone recording meant as proof, to finally shatter their own psychological defenses. They needed a camera to validate the danger their primal instincts had already detected, but their conscious minds refused to believe.
We have this incredible biological alarm system built right into our DNA, but we constantly hit the snooze button on it. We rely on the cold, unfeeling eye of a camera to tell us when we are actually in danger.
Which leaves us with a rather unsettling thought for you to mull over. We've spent this entire time talking about how modern technology validates our intuition. But if we are constantly relying on our phones to act as our objective reality checkers, what is happening to our primal instincts?
That's a great question.
If we require high-definition footage to give us permission to feel afraid, are we actively training our fiber-optic subconscious to stop sending those warnings? Before we all carry cameras in our pockets, how many thousands of times in human history did we walk right past the purple hat man in the woods or sleep soundly above a basement squatter, completely unaware of the horrors hiding just out of frame? As we offload our threat detection to the devices in our pockets, you have to wonder what happens on the day the battery dies, and you are left completely alone in the dark.
It definitely makes you wonder if our survival instincts are slowly atrophying with every video we record. Keep your eyes open, maybe trust that bad feeling a little more than your screen, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.